You think your office is safe? Bright lights, busy desks, the sound of keyboards clicking. But when the clock hits midnight, the walls remember. Every hallway, every empty cubicle, every flickering light hides something. Something watching, something waiting, and sometimes it follows you home. Tonight I'll tell you 5 true stories from offices where work was never the scariest thing happening. The last employee in the office? It was 3 a.m. when I realized the footsteps in the hallway weren't mine. I had stayed late at the office many times before, but this night felt different from the start. Everyone else had left around 8 p.m., their goodbyes echoing down the empty hall. The overhead lights buzzed faintly, and the hum of the air conditioning was the only sound I could hear. I had a deadline to meet, so I kept typing, barely looking at the clock. When I finally did, it was 2:58 a.m. My eyes felt heavy. I decided to grab some coffee from the break room before finishing the last few pages of my report. That's when I heard it. Soft footsteps in the hallway behind me. At first, I thought it was the security guard making his rounds, but the sound was too slow, too deliberate. Almost like whoever it was didn't want to be heard. I turned around, but the hallway was empty. The fluorescent lights flickered once, then steadied. I shrugged it off and walked toward the break room. As I reached for the coffee pot, the footsteps started again, this time closer. My heart picked up. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. I stepped into the hallway again, scanning both directions. It was dead silent. I started walking back to my desk, telling myself I was just imagining things from exhaustion. But halfway there, I heard the footsteps once more, directly behind me. I spun around. No one. This time I noticed something I had done before. The lights at the far end of the hall were off, completely dark, but I was sure they had been on earlier. I took a cautious step toward the darkness, feeling a strange pull, like something was daring me to come closer. Then I saw it. A shadow moved, not across the wall, but inside it. The shape of a person, tall and thin, sliding along the wall like ink in water. It stopped just at the edge of the darkness, as if waiting for me. I stumbled back toward my desk, my breath coming fast. I grabbed my bag and headed for the elevator, but when I pressed the button, the doors opened instantly, and the elevator was pitch black inside. I didn't step in. Instead, I decided to take the stairs. I ran down one flight, then another, but as I turned the corner to the next set, I froze. There was a pair of wet footprints on the steps, bare human feet leading downward, but they stopped halfway, vanishing into nothing. I bolted the rest of the way down, bursting out into the lobby. The security guard looked up in surprise. "Leaving late, huh?" I was too shaken to answer. I just kept walking toward the exit. As I pushed the door open, I heard it again. The same slow footsteps, this time right behind me. But when I turned around, the lobby was empty, except for the wet footprints leading straight toward me. "Elevator to nowhere," the elevator said, "floor 7. But our building only had 6 floors. I worked the late shift on Thursdays because our team handled clients in different time zones. By 10 p.m., the office was almost empty. I liked the quiet, the humming AC, and the soft glow of computer screens in the dark. It felt like the building belonged to me. That night, I finished my report and sent it to my boss. I stretched, packed my bag, and walked to the elevators. The hallway was still, and the red exit sign glowed at the end like a tiny ember. I pressed the elevator button, and the doors slid open right away. That was strange. Usually I had to wait. I stepped in and pressed L for lobby. The doors closed, and the elevator started moving. It was smooth at first. Then it stopped suddenly and shook a little, frowned, and looked up at the display above the doors. It didn't show lobby. It showed 7. My brain froze for a second. 7? Our building had 6 floors. I knew this for sure because I'd worked here for 2 years. There was a 6th floor server room, and the 5th floor was sales. There was number 7th floor. I pressed L again. The button flashed, the elevator hummed, and then, nothing. The doors finally slid open. The hallway outside was wrong. Da 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 da. The carpet was old and flicked, almost brown. The ceiling lights flickered. A cold draft brushed my face, and I could smell something like damp paper and old paint. The walls were the same layout as our building, but everything looked forgotten, like a copy of the real floor that someone left in storage for decades. I leaned out and called, "Hello?" Oh, my voice echoed like I was inside a tunnel.
Oh.
No answer. I knew I should stay inside the elevator. I knew it. But the doors started closing, and panic hit me. I stuck my hand out to stop them, and the doors opened again with a groan. I stepped into the hallway. There were office doors on each side. Most had no signs. One door had a plaque, but the letters were rubbed out. Only a few dusty chairs sat by the wall. I pulled out my phone. No service, of course. I turned back to the elevator, and the doors closed. I ran, pressed the up and down buttons again and again. Nothing. The elevator didn't respond. I stared at the display. It still said 7, with no up or down arrow, just 7, glowing red. A faint sound came from the far end of the hall. It was soft at first. A whisper, then a dragging sound, like feet, or something heavier. "Hello?" I tried again, voice shaking. The sound stopped. I took one careful step back, then another. The air felt colder. I could see my breath now. I looked down the hallway and saw someone turning the corner. A person. They were slow. Their steps were uneven, like one leg didn't fully bend. "Hey," I called, relieved. "Do you know where the stairs are?" The person turned their head, wish they hadn't. The face was pale and hollow, like the skin was stretched too tight. The eyes were wrong dark and shiny like wet marbles. Their mouth opened, and I thought they would talk. Instead, a long, dry breath rattled out. Then another head appeared just behind the first one, and another, faces leaning out from doorways. From the shadows, all facing me, silent, watching the elevator dinged behind me. I didn't think I ran. My shoes slid on the old carpet. I slammed into the elevator doors, which began to open slowly, way too slowly. I squeezed in just as the first pale figure reached the threshold. A cold hand brushed my sleeve. I hit L with my whole palm. The doors closed on the dark hallway, but not all the way. A thin, pale hand wedged in the gap for a second, and then pulled back as the doors sealed. The elevator shook hard and started to descend. The numbers ticked down. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The doors opened to the real lobby, the bright, clean lobby. The receptionist was gone. It was late, but the security guard sat in his chair reading a magazine. I rushed out, breathing fast, trying not to look insane. "Night," the guard said without looking up. "Everything okay?" I nodded too quickly. "Yeah, I just didn't know there was a 7th floor." He looked up slowly, stared at me. His face changed. He stood up. "You saw the 7th floor?" he asked softly. "Yeah. The elevator took me there." He swallowed. "If it ever happens again," he said, voice low, "don't get out." I stared at him. "What is it?" He shook his head. "It isn't ours." I turned back to the elevator. The screen above it flashed out of service. I watched as a faint reflection appeared in the doors. For a moment, I thought it was my own. Then the reflection smiled. And I didn't. The typing that wouldn't stop everyone left for the night. But I could still hear furious typing from the locked conference room. I was the last one at the office again. Our company had a big presentation the next morning, and I was in charge of printing the slides, sorting the files, and checking the projector. My coworkers had left around 9 p.m., joking that I was the real hero. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt tired and hungry. By 10:30, the whole office was quiet. The copy machine whirred, my laptop fan spun, and somewhere far away, a pipe knocked in the wall. I liked the silence. It made me feel focused. Then I heard it typing, not gentle typing. Furious typing, fingers slamming keys at high speed. Like someone racing a clock. Now the sound came from the big conference room at the end of the hall. I stood up and listened. The typing didn't pause, didn't slow. It kept going with a strange rhythm. Fast, faster, pause, fast again. Like someone who knew exactly what they were writing. I walked to the door and found it locked. I frowned. That was odd. We didn't lock the conference room at night unless someone left their laptop inside. I peered through the small window in the door. The lights were off, but I could make out the long table, the black chairs, the projector, and the thick glass wall with the company logo on it. "Hello," I called. "Who's in there?" The typing stopped. I waited. A chair squeaked. Then, nothing. "Do you need me to unlock the door?" I asked, trying to sound helpful. No answer. I pulled out my key ring, which had the conference room key. I was about to insert it when the typing started again twice as fast. It was twice as loud, like the person inside didn't want me to come in. "Okay," I said, backing away. "Sorry," I went back to my desk. The typing continued. I tried to ignore it, but it crawled under my skin. It sounded frantic, angry. It didn't sound like someone relaxed and working. It sounded like someone being chased by time, by fear, by something I couldn't see. After 10 minutes, I put on my headphones and turned up the volume. It didn't help. The typing cut through the music, like the sound was inside my head. Finally, I stood up again and walked back to the conference room. "I'm calling security," I said through the door. "If you're supposed to be here, just tell me your name." Silence. Then a single key press. Enter. The projector turned on by itself, and a pale blue light washed across the empty chairs. I felt a chill climb my spine, unlocked the door with shaking hands, and pushed it open slowly. The room was empty. No laptops, no phones, no person. Just the long, shiny table and 12 black chairs. But the projector was on. On the white screen, a document was open. A word processor. And words were appearing. Not typed in letters, typed in bursts. Whole lines of text racing across the screen like they were pouring in from somewhere else. I stepped closer. The words were messy, not grammar, not full sentences. It's just broken phrases and timestamps. 10:31, he's still here. 10:32, don't look at the glass. 10:33, keep typing, keep typing, keep typing. 10:34, he moves when you stop. 10:35, he stands behind you. When you read this, I froze. My eyes locked on the last line. The room felt colder. I stared at the screen, too scared to turn around. My heart thudded in my chest. I swallowed. Then I lifted my eyes to the glass wall. A shape stood behind me in the reflection. Tall. Still. Its head tilted slightly to one side. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I kept my eyes on the reflection, and I took one slow step toward the table. My hand found the wireless keyboard. I didn't want to touch it, but I did. I typed, "Who are you?" A new line appeared on the screen, but not from me. 10:36. Don't ask. Keep typing. My fingers moved without my brain. What do I type? 10:36 anything. If you stop, he moves. My throat felt tight. Where did you go? 10:37 don't turn around. The typing keeps him still. Do not stop. Please don't stop. My hands shook. I typed whatever I could think of alphabet. Numbers, my name, random words. The typing filled the room. The reflection on the glass didn't move. The head stayed tilted. The shape stayed still. 10:38, he is hungry when it is quiet. 10:39, we learned this too late. 10:40, everyone left. We didn't. Tears stung my eyes. How do I get out? 10:41, don't stop. Back away. Keep typing. Do not stop. I didn't know how to type while moving, but I tried. I slid the keyboard toward the door and kept tapping the keys as I walked backward. The reflection stayed behind me. The shape didn't move. My fingers hurt. My wrist burned. I kept going. I reached the door. I stepped into the hall, still typing. Then I kicked the door with my heel. It swung shut. The reflection vanished. The typing continued just long enough for me to throw the keyboard into the room and slam the door. The sound stopped. I stood panting in the hallway, shaking, staring at the glass wall. The projector turned off by itself. The room went dark, like nothing had ever happened. The next morning, the team arrived early for the presentation. My boss asked why the conference room door was locked. I handed her the key and didn't say anything. During the meeting, they ran the projector. The screen showed our slides, clean and perfect. But when the room was quiet, when the talking paused, I heard something beneath the silence. Soft at first, and not so soft. Typing. The new hire? He had no ID, no employee file, and no one remembered hiring him, but he knew all our names. The day the new guy showed up, everything seemed normal. It was Monday. The coffee machine was broken again. The printer jammed. People dragged their feet to their desks. I was half asleep, scrolling through emails when he walked past my cubicle. "Morning, Emma," he said, smiling. I looked up, confused. He was tall, thin, maybe mid-30s, with a clean suit and eyes that were a little too bright. I didn't recognize him, but he knew my name. "Morning," I said slowly. "You're?" He laughed gently and kept walking. "See you at lunch?" I watched him. He went from desk to desk, greeting people by name. He was smooth, friendly, almost charming, but something was off. He knew everyone, yet no one seemed to know him. I called HR. "Who's the new hire?" I asked. "The guy in the blue suit? New hire?" The HR rep said, "We don't have anyone starting this week." I peeked into the hallway. The new guy was talking to Megan from accounting. She looked nervous. He leaned in close and whispered something. She laughed weakly, like she didn't want to, but had to. I hung up and sent a message to my boss. "Who's the new guy?" No answer. By lunchtime, the whole office felt weird. People were smiling with tight mouths. Conversations died when I walked by. Doors that were usually open were closed. When I passed the break room, I saw the new guy sitting alone at the table, hands folded neatly. He looked up at me. "Emma," he said warmly, "you're late." "For what?" I asked, standing in the doorway. "For our lunch," patted the chair across from him. "Come on." I didn't want to sit, but I did. "Where did you work before?" I asked. "Here," he said, smiling. "How long?" He tilted his head, thinking long enough. "What's your name?" He smiled wider. "You'll remember it later." A shiver crawled up my arms. I stood to leave. He reached out, not grabbing, just placing his hand flat on the table, like he was blocking me without moving. "Emma," he said softly, "you should stay." I left anyway. Back at my desk, I searched the company directory. No new names. I searched group chats. Nobody was talking about him. Then I clicked the security camera app. I wasn't supposed to have access, but I had shared it with me once by accident. It still worked. I clicked the lobby camera. I clicked rewind to 8 a.m. People walked in. The new guy didn't. I rewound more. 7:30 a.m. Nothing. 7 a.m. Nothing. 6:45 a.m. The lights turned on and there he was. Not walking in, standing by the elevators, looking at the camera. I jumped. He had been there before anyone else, before the doors even opened. That afternoon, a meeting invite popped up on my calendar. All hands. 3:00 p.m. Boardroom, no sender, no agenda. Everyone got it. We gathered in the boardroom at 3. The new guy stood at the front of the room. He wasn't smiling anymore. "Thank you for coming," he said softly. "Some of you don't like me. That's fine. Some of you don't remember me. That's normal." He looked at each of us slowly. "But I remember all of you." "Who are you?" my boss asked, voice tight. He didn't answer the question. Instead, he said, "Let's review your roles." He pointed at Megan. "You hide invoices when you're afraid you'll miss a target." He pointed at Jared. "You blame interns for your mistakes." He pointed at me. "You keep secrets that don't belong to you." Heat rose in my face. "What?" He nodded gently. "You have access to security cameras. You shouldn't, Emma." The room went very quiet. My boss stood up. "You need to leave," she said. "Right now." He smiled, and the room's lights flickered. The projector turned on by itself. The screen showed the lobby camera at 6:45 a.m. The new guy stared back at us from the screen. He lifted his hand and waved. He lifted his hand and waved at the same time. The video rewound on its own. Faster, faster, faster. The new guy didn't move. The whole day played backward like water flowing uphill. People came and went. The sun rose and set in reverse. He stood there, still watching, like the buildings spun around him. Then the video stopped at a timestamp. March 12th, 1998. 6:45 a.m. The lobby looked different. Old furniture, old paint. The camera was grainy. There he was, still standing in the same place. The same suit, the same face. Not older, not younger. Someone gasped. "This isn't possible," my boss whispered. "It is," he said softly. "I'm the first one who worked here. The first one who turned on the lights. The first one who learned everyone's names." "Why are you here?" asked voice shaking. He looked at me, and for the first time, he seemed sad. "Because you forget," he said. "All of you. You forget the people who left, the ones who were fired, the ones who stayed late and never went home." He turned to the screen. "Someone has to remember." The lights flickered again. When they came back, the screen was off. The room was normal. The new guy was gone. Security checked the cameras. The feed was blank. The IT guy said it was a glitch. HR said there was no record of a meeting. But when I went back to my desk, a sticky note sat on my keyboard. My name, written in neat, careful letters. Under it, "You'll remember me later." I kept the note. Some nights when I'm the last one in the office, and the lights hum and the AC rattles, I feel watched. Not in a bad way, in a careful way. Like someone is checking roll. Sometimes I whisper goodnight. Sometimes I hear, "Good night, Emma." The meeting that never ended, I peeked into the boardroom. The same meeting was still going on with people who died last year. It started because I forgot my badge. I went back to the office late at night to grab it. Needed it to enter the parking garage in the morning. The building was dark, except for the familiar glow of the exit signs and the little green lights on printers. I walked past the boardroom on my way to my desk. Can't stop. There were people inside. That wasn't strange by itself. Sometimes executives stayed late. But the people in this meeting weren't executives. They were familiar. Too familiar. I pressed my face to the glass. Inside, 6 people sat around the long table. They were dressed in business clothes, papers in front of them, coffee cups near their hands. They were listening to someone, even though nobody stood at the head. Their faces were calm, focused, tired. I knew 3 of them. Nora from HR, who died in a car accident last winter.
Oh.
Luis from IAT, who had a heart attack by the elevators 11 months ago. Greg, who everyone said moved away, but we all knew he didn't. He'd jumped from the parking deck. I stepped back so fast my shoulder hit the wall. My breath caught in my throat. I looked again. The room was exactly the same as always. Same gray chairs, the same long table, same whiteboard, with the old idea map, nobody erased, except for the people who shouldn't be there. I checked the time, 11:12 p.m. I pulled out my phone to record. When I pointed the camera at the glass, the screen showed an empty room. Chairs, table, whiteboard, no one. I lowered the phone. They were there again. I raised it, empty. Lowered it. Meeting, raised it, empty. My hand shook. I should have left. Should have walked back to the elevator and never looked back. But I didn't, I whispered Nora. One of the figures turned her head slowly, like moving underwater. She looked right at me. Her lips parted just a little, like she was about to say my name. I knew she recognized me. The air went cold. My phone buzzed and I jumped. A calendar alert popped up. Recurring weekly budget alignment. Boardroom, 11 o'clock p.m. I had never seen this meeting before. Wasn't on any shared calendars. I clicked the organizer's name. No data. I should have run. Instead, I reached for the door handle. My fingers closed around cold metal, and a voice whispered behind me, "Don't." I spun. No one was there. The hallway was empty. But the whisper was right in my ear, like someone had leaned in, like a coworker telling a secret. I faced the boardroom again. Inside, Nora wrote something on a piece of paper and passed it to Luis. He read it and nodded. Greg checked his watch and sighed. It looked so normal, so boring, like any other meeting. I pressed the handle down. The door opened a crack. A slice of cold air hit my face. The room smelled like paper and old coffee and something else like wet concrete after rain. The people at the table turned their heads toward me at the same time. Not fast, not jerky, just together, as if a string pulled them. I whispered, "What are you doing, Nora?" Blinked. Her eyes were sad. Her mouth moved. No sound came out. She tried again. A tiny sound escaped, like a breath trapped in ice. I stepped inside. 1 foot. The door was heavy in my hand. A chair at the end of the table was pulled out, like someone had just left. Papers were stacked neatly. Pens lined up in a row. The clock on the wall said 11:12. My phone said 11:12. Neither moved. My eyes fell on the whiteboard. The same messy diagram was there, but in the top corner, there was something new, written in faint gray marker. Stay until we finish. My stomach turned. Finish what? I whispered. Louis pointed to the stack of papers nearest me. I picked one up. It was a budget sheet typed and printed, but someone had written on top of it in pencil. We can't leave until the agenda ends. They don't let us. My throat went dry. Who? Greg looked past me, toward the door. His eyes widened. He shook his head. His lips formed one word. Run. The door behind me began to close by itself. I grabbed the handle. It fought me. The room felt heavier. The air pressed against my skin. I pulled, and the door stopped. Halfway, my heart pounded. I'm sorry, I choked out. I'm sorry. The people at the table stared, their faces full of the kind of tired I had never seen on the living. Not sleepy tired, stuck tired, trapped tired. I pulled with everything I had. The door opened just enough for me to squeeze out. I stumbled into the hallway and slammed it shut. The lock clicked by itself. The glass went dark. I stood there shaking. Eventually, I walked to my desk and picked up my badge with numb fingers. On my way past the boardroom again, I didn't look. I couldn't. The next day I told myself it was stress, grief, a trick of light. But when I opened my email, a meeting invite sat at the top of my inbox. Weekly budget alignment to 11 o'clock p.m. Boardroom, organizer, no data. I declined it again and again. Every night now, at 11 p.m., I get the same invitation. Sometimes I walk by the boardroom after hours. If the light is off, I keep walking. If the light is on, I don't breathe. I don't blink. Because if you look too long, they see you. And if you step inside, the door gets heavy and the clock stops. You don't leave until the meeting ends.